Hello and welcome to another video by Rick Miracle Me. This is going to be series number 101 in the Freemasonry and Satanism series that I started 3 years ago, October 2013. So I finished my goal of 100 book reviews and associated material, other books, magazines, pictures, documents, research, and I thought it's time to have an overview and see what I've learned and maybe I've shared on the videos I've made. And this is how I tell which ones are posted, as I took everything down and I'm reviewing it and re-releasing them and upgrading some of the videos, replacing them, or just posting the originals. But I made a list like this. And you can see the ones that are highlighted in yellow are reposted. 100 book reviews on different books. That's more than 100 books, because on some of the topics there were more than one books I looked at. Anyways, here's the list starting with 1. Two. And page number 3. So I won't name these, but what I will do is tell you the number when I'm looking at the books. I started the series back in 1993 with this book, the Masonic Holy Bible. Now, it did come to my attention that if you're in the Middle East and you're in a territory where the religion uses the Quran, the Bible for the Islamic people, then in the Freemasonic temple lodge they'll have the Quran on the altar that you swear on their Bible of. And in other countries, whatever their religion is, their holy book will be what you swear on. So it's not always the Bible. The Bible is used in Christian areas. And what's interesting, as I pointed out 3 years ago, is some of the symbols in this Freemasonic Bible. The sun rays with the Masonic symbols, the Egyptian symbols right here, and right here, Tower of Babylon, biblical symbols, the candlestick, the Masonic compass on the Bible, the podium where you kneel and swear on the Bible under threat of death that you won't divulge the secrets. The indication, symbolism, and words, the text indicating it's directly related to Jerusalem and King Solomon's temple. And they got things like the architecture of the tabernacle. the materials of which they need to require or have to build the new King Solomon temple, the Ark of the Covenant. So basically what I'm saying is this is the book that started the series, the Holy Bible for the Christians, and a version edited and created for the Freemasons. King Solomon's Temple mentions that everywhere. So if you've been paying attention to my videos, the news, other YouTube videos, what's going on in the world, you know since 9/11 they've overthrown many countries in the Middle East and Central Northern Africa, the Ukraine, Egypt, and continuing to cause chaos and anarchy throughout the world, economic destruction, and preparations for seemingly some huge event like martial law, World War III, population reduction, global warming, global cooling, Planet X, pole shift, and so much more. And 9/11 was the catalyst, the Hegelian dielectric event, which gave them the excuse and to invade the Middle East and cause all this craziness, spend billions and trillions of dollars. FEMA camps, 450 million hollow point bullets, guillotines, legislation, Patriot Act, vaccines, microchips. Again, so much more to prepare for this new world order, new age. So this is the book I started the series on. And I have the numbers on these books, so I'll mention them. But this is number 61. This is the Blue Lodge Handbook. You can go online on a used book site and buy one of these, because when people pass away, usually all their assets, furniture, books, personal belongings go into an estate sale, and books wind up in used bookstores, online or in your local town, that normally weren't supposed to be there. These books weren't meant to wind up in your living room. Anyways, as I said before, when you go through a Freemasonic ritual, I made 12 two-hour videos on this book, and it's series number 61. But you have to swear under threat of death, blindfolded, half naked, on the Bible, with a noose around your neck, that you won't divulge the secrets, and you'll obey the master. That's number 61. Then I've been going over this book quite a bit. I've got numerous videos made, probably 10, and I'm reposting them, and I'm going to make more. I'm going to read this book from beginning to end, and this will all be under the series 41. So I put little numbers so I know, and I have my little charts there I just showed you, so that I know what's posted and what's completed and what I've done and what I haven't done. And again, even in the Freemasonic book here by Albert Pike, one of the leaders of the Freemasons during the war between the North and the South, by the way. And the gentleman who wrote the letter to a friend of his in Italy, Mazzini, explaining the requirement of 3 world wars to take over the world, the New World Order, to bring it about. Page 253, and I'm just going to flip these books open and maybe read one sentence. You can go watch the videos if you want all the information, or go buy the book and spend a lot of time reading it. You can look Morals and Dogma up on, again, on used book sites. I used abebooks.com, But if I can't find it at a reasonable price there, I go to one of the other used book sites, or eBay, or Amazon, plenty of places, Books A Billion, bookstores. It says here on this page, the Jews of Egypt were slightly jealous of and a little hostile to those of Palestine. So the Jews of Egypt were jealous of and hostile to the ones in Palestine. So I can tell you from going over this book, the references and the material has a lot to do with Israel, Jerusalem, that whole territory, Egypt, the Sphinx, the pyramids, that whole area, and all of the ancient text, even from the ancient religions of the Chinese and Indians, Hinduism and Buddhism, other ancient religions, whether it's the Islamic religion, the Christian religion, Zoroastrianism, and it's all in here. The stuff that Helena Blavatsky and Alice Bailey, Annie Besant, Mr. Olcott, who went all over the eastern part of Europe and Asia and studied the religions and brought them back to Europe and the United States and created the Theosophist Society, which is the intelligence seemingly behind the United Nations, along with the Zionist Jewish people. Same religion, the Kabbalah, the occult, magic, witchcraft, stuff I've been going over. It's all, the dots are all connected. And then they have a hierarchy of these groups. And this is number 9, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. And again, you're going to notice these symbols with the circles, the skull and bones, like George Bush's Skull and Bones organization, and the wings, and the birds, and the animals, and the sun's rays. You're going to see it just like we saw in the Masonic Bible. Bloodlines of the Illuminati, and the family names are in here. Got Bill Clinton in here, all about him. And people want to elect Hillary Clinton as president. And look at the devil sign with his hands. Bill Clinton giving the satanic salute with his left hand. The esoteric meaning of this means, I love you. The hand signal actually puts Illuminati slaves into a programmed hypnotic state, which is the true esoteric power. So that when they go out there, the politicians, and people think they're saying, I love you, they're putting the people in a hypnotic state according to what it says right there. So much was in this book, I'm going to have to probably make another video or two. Number 65. Dark Majesty, Text Mars. I've been going over his material. Amazing information. He talks about on the back of this, here's when he was, Text Mars was a younger man. The Secret Brotherhood. Men of majesty, extraordinary men, regal men, who knew the hidden powers of magic and the supernatural. Universally admired, even loved, they ruled the masses through pageantry and illusion. Dark Majesty. Number 65. And I did do some reshuffling. So when I show you my charts that I'm going to post on my website, maybe have a link below at the bottom of my future videos so that you can go look at this and see where each one is. These are the books, these are the authors, and this is the number of the series. So when I was doing this, when I started 3 years ago, when I did books like these, it's hard to get these, but The International Jew, the World's Foremost Problem. That's what it says. What are you to think when you see a book like that and it calls it The World's Foremost Problem by Henry Ford, the automaker? Being a reprint of a series of articles appearing in the Dearborn Independent, May 22 to October 2nd, 1920. And they were having congressional hearings on some issue called the Jewish problem. So anyways, Volume 1. Volume 2. The International Jew, the World's Foremost Problem. Volume 3, The International Jew, the World's Foremost Problem. Jewish Influence in American Life. Jewish Activities in the United States. And number 4, Aspects of Jewish Power in the United States, the World's Foremost Problem, Volume 4 of the International Jew. So anyways, when I did do these videos, and that would be series number 11. One would have been number 8, the other would have been 14 in my series, and this one would have been 40, and this would have been maybe 78. So they're all now under one number. Well, I just discovered my first mistake in my little reorganizing. The number of these Henry Ford's books will be under 95. So instead of 4 different series, that means I deleted number 14, 40, whatever they were, 11, and I'm replacing them with other books that I have read, but I have not made a video, but I will be making videos on those numbers, if that made any sense. America's Secret Establishment, number 83 in my series, on this book. Again, you're going to see a theme here, and the dots are going to be connected. So after 16 books, Anthony Sutton, a well-respected author, and 25 years of basic research, I thought I'd heard it all. America's Secret Establishment. The world was a confused mess, probably beyond understanding and certainly beyond salvation. So what he discovered, and I went over in the videos that I made, that these Freemasons and Illuminati, Zionists, and others, America's secret establishments, infiltrated the educational system, the economic system, the medical system, the industrial system, everything. They've taken it over, and they are planning on a new world order. The charts are all in here. The peoples, the names, the dates. Number 83. Another book I have not made the video on, but which I read thoroughly and referenced in numerous videos. I think I might have made one video. But anyways, it's number 23. Who financed Hitler? James and Suzanne Poole. One of the most illuminating studies of Nazism. This book explains how in a decade the Nazi Party developed from a meager collection of poor crackpots into a national organizations. You don't think that these elitists had a hand in that? Putting Hitler up in that position, causing World War III, that we already know from my book reviews here, that the Albert Pike of Morals and Dogma wrote a letter to his friend Mazzini in 1880-something, explaining that 3 world wars would be required to bring about a new age and a new world order. And that it does involve all these Jewish folks, specifically after World War I, Russia was invaded, causing a revolution. And in 1917, which lasted for 10 or 15 years, purging the Christians and other good people, some say over 100 million people were killed. Christian churches all across Russia were destroyed, but not the Jewish temples. But the Yiddish Jews were sent to barracks and camps all over Europe for training on how to immigrate into the United States of America, what to say, how to speak, all that stuff. And they were causing great havoc, and they were altering our country as per hearings in 1920s and 1930s, congressional hearings in the United States of America, with the communist. And communist is world socialism, is a one world religion, new age, is a one world order, one God, and as per the Bible, microchipping everybody with the mark of the beast, and executing, imprisoning any resistors to the New World Order. And these Yiddish, Bolshevik, Jewish folks were part of that big change. And they knew what they were doing, I believe. They were ridiculing and making fun of us Americans in New York and all over the country. So you got Who Financed Hitler? Number 23. Secret Establishment. Number 83. Dark Majesty. Number 65, and Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Number 9. And to bring this about, they were quite intelligent people, these secret societies and Illuminati and Zionist Jewish folks, the people belonging to these secret societies, temples, lodges all over the world, with hundreds if not thousands of names. But anyways, what they were doing is they were trying to topple all the governments of the world, cause them to go into foreclosure, or even if they had to execute the presidents, like in our case in the USA, President John Kennedy said in a famous speech you can find on the internet that it is repugnant to the American way of life to have secret societies and organizations controlling our world and manipulating everything. And he was dead right after that at Delaney Plaza in, I guess, a Masonic plaza. But then you have this book, number 7 in my series that I made. And these books were illuminating to me. They were waking me up. I didn't know what I know now. I had read books for almost 10 years before I decided it was time to make some videos and share what I had learned, and organizing all the data in the books. But Confessions of an Economic Hitman, John Perkins. The shocking inside story of how America took over the world. Now remember, in Israel, Prime Minister Sharon, who's now dead, in a heated argument in his Congress, and somebody said, well, we can't keep something like this, I'm paraphrasing, but we can't keep destroying the Palestinian villages and killing the Palestinians. America, who's been our biggest financial supporter, will try to stop us. And Prime Minister Sharon of Israel said, don't worry about America, we control America. And it is the Zionist Jews and the Illuminati who control the banks and everything. And Rothschilds, the number 1 leader of the Illuminati, is a Zionist Jewish folks. And during World War I, he manipulated events so Britain would win the war if Britain agreed after the war to annex the Palestinians' land and give it to the Rothschilds to create the State of Israel. Everything was manipulated. But in this book, not only, it didn't stop there by no means, getting the Palestinians' land, but now that they own the banks, and the Federal Reserve in 1913 during Christmas holiday, with President Woodrow Wilson's help, their puppet and stooge in the White House. Because the previous president to Wilson told the Zionist New York Bolshevik Jewish folks that he would not do what they said, and they said, then the next president we will put in office and he will do what we want. But anyways, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. The people were hired. John Perkins, insider, tells all, to go to see presidents and leaders of countries all over the world, convincing them to borrow millions and billions to build power plants and factories, and said your gross national product will go way up and your citizens will be fabulously wealthy and living life like they never did before, all the natives. Well, as we all know now in 2016, that never happened, and a lot of those countries went into foreclosure, and the ones who didn't cooperate were assassinated. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Get it? Economic hitman. They used money and temptation to destroy nations. And the poor natives, even down in South America, Central America, if they resisted having their village destroyed, their waterway polluted, what were they, machine gunned to death? Were they destroyed? Were they displaced, like in the Middle East? Yes. Another interesting thing. I was in the Army myself, 74, 75. But anyways, after or during the Vietnam War, many of us are aware of all the protesters, the hippies, people protesting the Vietnam War. Well, this was in 67, 68, 66, 69. This distressed the leaders, the people who paid for these people to go around bribing kings and queens and presidents. The Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Zionists, the leaders of the world. This distressed them that the people would rise up and revolt and protest what they were doing. So what they had to do, there's this book, number 28, Report from Iron Mountain. So this was published in 67. So anyways, the elites gathered together about a dozen men, hand-selected intellectuals from the United States, and sent them to a military base inside a mountain called Iron Mountain in upstate New York. And they were to come up with a plan on how to keep the people in line, under control, patriotic. And they said, we need substitutes for war. Page 57. I'll be making a video on this book and posting it. That'll be number 28. But anyways, they came up with some brilliant ideas. They came up with environmental catastrophes, blooming problems, global warming, global cooling, terrorism, water shortages, food shortages, plagues, all kinds of plans. It's in this book. Anyways, one of the members of that group said, this is too important for the American people to not know about. This is a plan of all the things they're going to do to fool the people, to trick them to be patriotic. A report of a special study group. So one of the members sought out a non-popular publisher, somebody obscure, somebody who would publish this secret document that these elitists made for just elite people in the government, to how to implement a plan to keep the people in line and use other kinds of issues, like I said, food shortages, fuel shortages, environmental catastrophes, planetary catastrophes, whatever they could do, war and peace as social systems. So prior to the nuclear bombs, war was used as a tool to keep people in line. And Germany would be killing the Britons, and Britons would be killing the Germans. The Germans would be killing the French. The French would be killing the Germans. And these leaders, for thousands of years, I suppose, have been using that propaganda and deception to rile up their people to go kill the other people. Even during the Crusades, when the Pope and the kings and queens from all the countries around Europe would march off towards Jerusalem, that whole peninsula, cross over Turkey and Greece and go down into the Middle East. The troops, the invaders, were allowed to collect some of the booty of all the people they slaughtered. A little motivating thing there in the Crusades. So they wanted to find out a way to control all the people with the report from Iron Mountain. But they had another big problem, and even H.G. Wells talked about it in his book, The Open Conspiracy, which I'll show you that book. The report from Iron Mountain was number 28. If I don't want to forget this, and number 7 was Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And all these are not published yet. You saw my chart. I got a long ways to go to review everything and get them all published. But I just thought it'd be kind of cool to go over a snapshot of these 100 books. But anyways, they had another problem back there in 1967. To them anyways. Now that they had this world they wanted after World War II and after World War I, and they killed off people. And think about this for a minute. All those people who were killed, whether in prisons after the war or during the war in Germany, in all those countries. And even in the United States in the war between the North and the South, with Albert Pike being a leader and a general for the South. But anyways, with these wars, who gets all the people's property? And in the back of the mind of these elitists who hire these people to destroy nations, I think it is a grand theft motivation for them also. Because apparently, like the Queen of England, apparently, what does she own? 50% of the wealth of the world? Who owns the other 50%? The Rothschilds, Illuminati? We all know there was a study done at a university in Switzerland. You can look this up on your computer. That there, 400 individuals, corporations own all the other major companies all over the world. Mines, diamond mines, gold mines, agriculture, putting the small farmer out of business. But another problem they had, getting to the point here, now that they have this closing in on the New World Order, the New Age, now that they have Israel and they've pretty much just eliminated the Palestinians don't have hardly any land left, and all the other countries in the Middle East now, if you go look up on Yahoo Images, those countries and cities and towns and commercial buildings and everything, canals, water plants, airports, have been bombed to smithereens. So not only were they eliminating the Palestinians and taking all their land, they plan on a much huger country for Israel called Greater Israel, and there are maps on the internet. And Yahoo image site, yet again I mentioned, put in Greater Israel and you'll see the maps from the Euphrates all the way down to the Nile, Egypt. And before they apparently want to go after and destroy Iran, because Iran would be a big threat to this Greater Israel, because Iran wouldn't want them taking over the whole region. Who would blame Iran? But anyway, Syria, the other countries like Iraq, Afghanistan, Tunisia, and Libya, all these countries just fell like dominoes. And when they went to Syria, dominoes stopped falling. And it's, as we all are aware, if you've been paying attention to the news, they've been having a huge problem taking down Assad in Syria, removing the president, taking control of that country, and murdering all the people. But I think they're pretty much have accomplished that. At least they think so, because I'm starting to see the war drums in the media, in the news, that they're saying that Iran is now the threat is rising, and they're getting closer to have nuclear bombs, and they're preparing to do a first strike. So I think Israel, NATO, Pentagon, all these elitists, not the USA citizens and the citizens of Germany and England, and we the people are not part of this. We're being deceived. But I think they're now want to go after Iran. From the press releases I've been seeing lately, they get a little more astounding every day lately. When you're checking your email, you'll probably see them. But anyways, back to the point. Back in 67, 71, 72, and they closing in on their New World Order, New Age, they felt and they feel there are too many people on the planet. And they were publishing books. And again, these books weren't meant for you and me. They were meant for the senators and representatives and other elites in society to justify what they want to do next. And the book, one of the books is The Limits of Growth by the Club of Rome, another one of those organizations. So it goes into great detail here about population in Venezuela and the world. These three factors, page 113, influencing fertility, are in turn influenced by other factors in the world system. Figure 31 suggests that industrialization might be one of the more important of these factors. The relationship between crude birth rates and GNP per capita of all the nations in the world follows a surprisingly regular pattern. In general, as GNP rises, gross national product, the birth rate falls. This appears to be true despite differences in religious, cultural, and political factors. Well, we know the GDP, GNP, gross national product, in the Middle East is plummeted, and those people are having 4 or 5 kids per family. Here in the United States, things are still fairly healthy economic-wise. There is the lower levels, middle class, that are feeling the pinch. But anyways, it's been healthy for a while. And the birth rate is lower than 2 children per family, which means the population is reducing in the United States of America, especially the white people, according to the stuff I've read. And they are, as everybody is aware, they are importing all kinds of foreigners from the Middle East and other places, Mexico, South America, Central America, to the USA, further diluting our system, taking over jobs that I guess Americans wouldn't do at that time because they were, I guess, didn't want to be harvesting corn or tomatoes and do these menial jobs. So it's a bit of a quagmire for the United States and the other European nations, where the birth rate is down and the tax base is going down, so they're importing the immigrants for workers and to repopulate the aging populations. But they want to reduce the worldwide population. There are books published. This is number 27. And another book by Dr. Paul Ehrlich. These people are seriously into depopulation. The book is even called The Population Bomb. So if you put all this stuff I'm going over here into context, you go, oh my God. But page 94, I just flipped it open as usual. In summary, the world population control situation is dismal. The principal dim source of hope are the attitudes and actions of governments like those of India, Pakistan, Chile, and other undeveloped countries. They at least realize that there is a problem and are trying to take action. So the government officials and the elites do believe there's too many people, and I think it's just a matter of They don't want to be bothered to do their job, elected officials to do their job, to work for the people. They have switched their allegiance, it appears, to the banksters and elitists who give them all kinds of money, power, and fame. Elected officials and hired officials for the government are supposed to work for we the people. But now they want the people to feel guilty that we've destroyed the environment and we're responsible for CO2 increases. I guess just by breathing cars and smokestacks, which we the people don't own those power plants. The elitists do. But anyways, they want the people to feel obliged, and also they're doing things to make the people believe or accept the new police state. Our own disgraceful puttering really cannot be dignified even in the terms of effects. It is ironic that some Latin American politicians have accused the United States of attempting to pressure them into population control programs. The books are here. You can read it. Number 35. I know what you're thinking, Rick. There's no conspiracy. I've got the books. Number 92. Conspiracy against Christianity. You can look up series number 92. Book review I did is published. So apparently there's been a conflict between the Templars, Freemasons, the Catholic Church, the Zionists. They seem to be having these battles back and forth. And from my understanding, they like to appear to be opposing each other, again to manipulate the population. But go get this book and read it, or watch my video to begin with to see if you want to order the book. All these books I'm showing you, I highly recommend you go try to find them and buy them. Another one that I went over, number 94, is The New World Order by Ralph Epperson. The Great Seal of the United States, with a pyramid and eagle, Latin phrases, etc., has been reproduced into 2 circles on the back of every American dollar bill, but a few in America know what these symbols mean. The key to understanding the meaning behind these symbols is found in a translated in the Latin phrase, Annutae Conceptus Novus Order Seclorum, announcing the birth of the New World Order. So many good, educated authors. People spend a good portion of their life writing these books. I read them, made videos on them. Let me get to a different twist on this whole story. Who are all these elites? Who are they? What do these symbols mean? The blazing rays, the wings, the double-headed bird, the pyramid, the sun and the moon on the Skull and Bones character. The buildings all over the world designed in these strange shapes. The Vatican, the obelisk, the little pointy things in every downtown city square. King Solomon's temple they want to rebuild on the top there. That is the Porth of Smyrna. The Onassis family was linked to the American Illuminati. Didn't John Kennedy marry into the Onassis family? Anyways, this book's got the DuPonts, all these families, and their family tree. Who are these people? So apparently, as crazy as this is going to seem, was Earth visited by intelligent beings from a planet in the system of the star Sirius. This would be number 36 in my series. So I was showing this book to a friend of mine. She was talking about the Nibiru, an incoming star system that apparently is supposed to come through this system every 12,000 years, 24,000 years. Possibly, from my easy explanation, let's say there's the sun and our solar system with all the planets, and another star with all its planets. And they travel in a big orbit. And every 26,000 years or 12,000 years, they get close to each other. And apparently some of the outer planets of these star systems collide, like we have a asteroid belt in the middle of the orbits of all the planets in our solar system. So they call it Nibiru, Herculumbus, the Destroyer, Planet X. So anyways, this book talks about it, and some of the other interesting details. The symbols, like the Babylonian zodiac. The zodiac is, of course, if you were to go outside in your yard and look at the stars and stay up all night long and watch the sky, you would see one constellation after another go by, a different pattern of stars. About 50% of them in a given night. As the Earth turns from summer to winter, you'd see the other 50%. Something like that. The constellations. So anyways, in one of those constellations, like Orion, is, I think, the star system Sirius, with a binary star. And apparently these beings, aquatic beings, fish type of beings, came here to Earth. Part of the story. So anyways, when I did the video on this book, 36, I like to do follow-up research. And I felt in my gut that this guy, Robert Temple, was a Mason. The author. That's the dog star symbol there. And I was trying to put together the alien thing and the Freemason thing. All this for me is connecting the dots. I think all these books right here, these books here, these, and these, those 4 shelves are the 100 books that make up the series that I've done in 3 years. That's why they're all there. And the ones I've already looked at are sitting on this table. You see some holes here. I've already pulled out some. And I'll be putting the others back and pulling out some more to finish up the Series 101 video, which may be more than one part, as I keep rambling on. But anyways, I found this letter, because apparently the guy who wrote this book, The Sirius Mystery, about this lost star, the star system, some alien entities apparently who came to Earth and were our forefathers, as you will see here in a second. So he wasn't a Freemason, but his father was and grandfather were 32 and 33 high-level degree Masons. So when he wrote this book, the Masons wanted him to join Freemasonry so they could talk to him about this secret knowledge that he apparently discovered and wrote this book about, that was part of the cosmic religion of the secret societies, the secret temples and lodges and Scottish Rite, Illuminati, Rosicrucian, Babylon, all these things. Mystery School of Babylon. The all-seeing eye on the back of the dollar bill, the pyramid. So anyways, there was a letter I found in the book yesterday. And I started reading it, and I said, oh my God, this just says volumes. So let me see what I can read from it. So apparently he was a little put off that somebody else wrote a book and accused him of being a Freemason. And he wanted to disagree with it. But he goes in here that apparently there are people throughout American history who have had a third set of teeth, including John Leonard and even George Washington, and apparently Hercules even had a third set of teeth. And this is supposed to be something connected with a DNA of some beings who come from another star system. And I connected it to the Freemasons just yesterday with this letter I found. So it is probable the tales of Hercules, half God, half man. Look what it says on the back of this book. Was Earth visited by intelligent beings from a planet in the solar system of the star Sirius? Is this the background of the New World Order elites? Do they really feel that planet Earth has too many people now? Have they conspired and planned to topple governments all over the world? And come up with plans to scare the people and use fear-mongering to keep them in line with the report from Iron Mountain? You start to go over these books and you see a plan unfolding. So it says here, for instance, they believe that only if I became a 33-degree Mason, I could have further conversations about Sirius. So they talk about these half man, half God. I'm just going to read briefly this letter. I think you'll get the point. But so the story goes, so perhaps there is a very rare genetic syndrome whereby a man of abnormal size, you can go see a lot of videos on YouTube and books called Giants, Master Builders of Prehistoric and Ancient Civilizations by Stephen Quayle on the bottom there. So apparently, there have been these people throughout history. And there have been bones found. So what does all this have to do? I say it's all connected. In the Bible, they even mention Enoch's giants. So this would be number 44 in my series. So all this is coming together here. So apparently, there's a rare genetic syndrome whereby a man of abnormal size and strength with the third set of teeth occurs in the population. This could be part of the rational background to the lore concerning Hercules and Gilgamesh. Remember Zacharias Stitchins? How about the elites like the king and queen and the leader of the Illuminati who viciously sacrifice humans, drink the blood, eat the flesh, and apparently shapeshift into a reptilian creature? All this stuff is mentioned in ancient hieroglyphics, Machu Picchu lines down in Peru, the gigantic stones in Lebanon, Baalbek, the Egyptian pyramids, hieroglyphics, ancient underground facilities in Ecuador, Greece, Romania, all over the world. So what are we to believe, and what if there is this remnant of these elitists still on Earth, and they're the ones that are behind all these Freemasonic, Illuminati, Zionist type organizations, kings and queens and the Vaticans and popes and so forth? What if? So anyways, trying to get to this story here. So these people came to America to escape any kind of religious persecution. One family was the Munns, changed their name in America to Miller to avoid anti-Semitism, and as they settled in the most German and most anti-Semitic city, in the United States at that time, Cincinnati. So his grandfather was a 33-degree Mason and Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret. I've gone over those things in my Morals and Dogma book reviews I mentioned. But there's a story here. The serious mystery, we realize you may have written this without any knowledge of the traditions of Masonry. So these are these Freemasons that want to talk to him, Mr. Robert Temple, about this book. We realize you have written this without any knowledge of the traditions of Masonry. I'm connecting the dots here. And you may not be aware of this, but you have made some discoveries which relate to the most central Masonic traditions at a high level, including some things that none of us ever knew. We would very much like to get you to exchange some ideas and research with some of the people in our headquarters, but unfortunately, because you are not a Mason, we cannot discuss any of these matters with you. So he went and became a Mason. So it was forbidden for them to talk to him about the subject of the lost star. Apparently that comes, according to this material, through our solar system, and these people came here and were somehow influenced early human people on the planet. I asked him what sort of connection there was, and he did not mention specifically that it was my work on ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt, remember the symbolism. The pyramids, the hieroglyphics, Horus, Osiris, Isis, the threat in the Middle East right now. 911, so they could go destroy all the countries in the Middle East to bring about this new age and new world religion. Are there some kind of beings planning on rebuilding their empire on Earth? And are they using the Zionist, Freemasons, Illuminati, and all the other mystery school secret organizations to do that? And do they want to depopulate the planet? I'm just going over the books I've gone over in 3 years and trying to see the whole puzzle come together. So they talk in here, my work on ancient Egypt, Isis, Osiris, and the ancient traditions of the star Sirius. So it says here in his letter, some vaguely known that what are called Mark Masons. When I went over my Blue Lodge handbook and made those 12 two-hour videos, I also mentioned in the series number 61, I mentioned the fourth degree Mark Masons. So I'm connecting these Sirius star beings with the symbolism, with Freemasonry and all the secret societies, possibly the elites who have been in charge of our planet or in control of it all at all time, causing death and destruction to all of us for thousands of years. Maybe it's time we people wake up. But anyways, it says here some of these Mark Masons are just having a good time at the Freemasonic lodges, which a lot of people believe, just drinking beer, etc. But a few Masons seem to be intellectuals pursuing the ancient mysteries. So once you rise up in a certain high level of initiation, you get into the inside truths of these organizations, which by the threat of death having their throat cut, they are not divulged to share with the rest of us. So it says here, Knight and Lomas have done a good job of demonstrating that many people, including myself, have long assumed that Freemasonry is directly descended from and is a continuation of the Knights Templar. Although the Knights Templar were suppressed in England and France, they continued in Scotland. A lot of us know this basic stuff, but here's some really important stuff in Robert Temple, the author of the Serious Mysteries letter here. defending himself because some friends wrote a different book mentioning him and who he was, and he says they misunderstood him, so he's trying to explain it in this letter. As for the serious mystery and Freemasonry, there are some further speculations. After the publication of my book, various people wrote me and asked me whether I knew of the writings of Alice Bailey. Wow, I've been going over those. Helena Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, Isis Unveiled, Alice Bailey, Annie Besant, Karma, Initiation, Thought Forms. I thought it was time I really took a deep look into that material, and it's mentioned in here. So now I'm connecting the Theosophist Society, which was publishing material under Lucifer Publishing Company. Lucifer Magazine controls the United Nations right now, and the Freemasons are also interested in the serious mystery, other beings who may have come to Earth or part of Earth's past, which we know there were other beings. Atlantis sinking, the people who built the pyramids, the Sphinx, the big stones at Belbek in Lebanon, Machu Picchu, the caves in Ecuador, the Hopi Indians in America. Before the Great Flood, ancient tribes all over the world tell stories about how these other beings helped them build underground facilities to escape the flood and destruction. So here it mentions in Robert Temple's letter that he discovered the writings of Alice Bailey, who produced many volumes of mystical works, supposedly inspired by higher beings. Man, all these books coming together in this letter. Who produced many volumes inspired by higher beings, communicated to her in a trance. You know, you go in a trance and you have a pen in your hand or a pencil, and you allow some beings through you to write a letter. That's called automatic writing. Or as Nikola Tesla would go to sleep and have dreams, or awake would have visions in front of him, and some kind of entities were communicated to him, and he tells all this. Apparently, I learned this recently. Nikola Tesla was also in communication with some kind of a medium or a mystic called a Swanee. And he's from that part of area near Russia where there were a lot of people who were psychic. It's all coming together. So anyways, now he's talking about Annie Besant, the Theosophist Society. My friend, the late Sir John Sinclair, there's a name, had met Alice Bailey as a child and was involved in her literary estate, something called the Lucas Trust, stuff I've been going over, formerly known as Lucifer Trust. He attempted to search the serious references for me. I discovered that Miss Bailey had maintained that the Great White Lodge of Freemasonry was based on the Sirius system. The symbols. And that is always beaming hopeful. It is beaming hopeful rays to the poor people of earth who wallow in appalling ignorance, violence, and oppression. We earthlings are looked upon as a dangerous lot, and the Syrians have tried hard to civilize us without much success. Freemasonry is meant to be one of their civilizing forces here. So do the Freemasons actually work for these Syrians, aliens? Of course, the corrupt Masonic lodges such as the P2 would form no part of this. You can go find this letter. But it's helping me connect the dots about the solar system and all this stuff. Here's the title you can look up maybe to find this. So let me get back onto some more of these books here in my review of the 100 books that I've based my series Freemasonry and Satanism on. So, assuming all this stuff is just not a bunch of fabricated information meant to fool the whole planet, which would be kind of crazy, let's try to put this story together. Here's another book, The Lost Star. Remember, there's a lot of fear-mongering going on. with another star system or planet, Nibiru, or Planet X, or the Planet Destroyer dark star coming into our solar system. So this would have been 56. I put a little couple markers up here just to show you a couple things. If we are on the threshold of a higher age, how can we realize its benefits? Page 35. Page 34. The ancients, however, were aware of a grand cosmic cycle. They knew that it repeated itself on a vast scale and used it to track long periods of time. They believed this long cycle had seasons, highlighted at its extremes with a golden age and a dark age, similar to but different from the summer and winter of the Earth year. So more books to read. And they got these calendars, like Mayan calendars, that tell you the years and where we are now. And apparently we're coming from the dark ages, ascending into a more intelligent age of the planet. And apparently these people are in control. Then there's this other thing. The ancient god of the Romans was called Mithra. But they got this thing in this book, The Ancient Science Behind Precession. But some kind of god called Mithras. In this book, the Greco-Roman Mithric tradition held the belief that their god Mithras was in fact a second, unseen, and hyper-cosmic sun, responsible for driving precession and the cycle of ages throughout the zodiac. Because Mithraism existed in the depths of the Kali Yuga, its followers had no doubt lost access to the previous knowledge. So the theory is this. There was a period called a golden age at the top. Maybe Atlantis, Hyperborea, other ancient civilizations that supposedly existed. But anyways, as this other sun comes closer, that brings us into the highly intellectual age. And then when it parts again for 24,000 years, we get into where they are furthest apart, called a dark age. And then when it comes back around to come closer again, we start ascending back into an enlightened age, according to this kind of material. So, if there is this other sun coming, and they see a lot of chaos and anarchy and destruction on earth, and they think there's too many people, and they're trying to destroy Christianity, Jesus, and religion, and not have you and I pray, which they know is powerful, what are they doing to prepare? They're building underground cities. This is book number 31. What is the government trying to hide? These are book reviews I've gone over. Written by Richard Sonder, PhD. Smarter guy than me. I did notice another book I had that I have not done a book review on, but I thought it would be appropriate to this conversation. But I got another one here, which is kind of cool, called Commander X. Some kind of interdimensional being communicating with Earthlings. Underground alien bases. A lot of people on YouTube talk about that. So let's see if there's any pictures in here. In one of those bases, apparently in Dulce, New Mexico, they got this base. Look at this picture. So what's true? Are they abducting people? Books like this you can find. And then what else are they doing? They're building HARP systems, transmitters. 40 acres with all these RF antennas, microwave antennas. You know you're not supposed to put your hand or your head inside a microwave oven or your pet. You'll cook it. So why are they building transmitters to cook the earth, control the weather, make everything hot using Nikola Tesla's technology? This is book number 32. And our economy. We all know, if you go get books like this, that they control the money and everything. Interest rates, putting money into society and lowering the interest rates to make things go robust, and a lot of people get excited and make money and get huge savings for families. And then they raise the interest rates and they pull back the money supply and everything crashes. Who really owns your gold? I made some videos on that. Number 33. Speaking of that, while I'm on that topic, Edward Griffin wrote this book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. I made a video on this. I'm going to make another video on this. Book review number 55. What else are they doing? Underground tunnels, crashing the economy, controlling the people, deceiving people, abducting people. Apparently have high technologies of, some say even a lot of spaceships that they don't tell the American people about. Higher technologies. But anyways, 911. You don't think it was an inside job, read this book. Book number 12 in my series. Series number 12. More proof of there's something going on. An Open Conspiracy and Other Writings by H.G. Wells. Back in 1928, 1930, this was revised. Suffice it to say that he was around during the Russian Revolution, World War I, went over to Russia, and seemed to have a lot of sympathies towards the communist and the New Age and the New World Order. And he really looked down on the average man, calling us animals not to be trusted. And he wrote a lot of stuff. I made a video. You can go watch it. If it's not posted, I'll post it eventually. But The Open Conspiracy. And as I said, that would have been number 12. Further proof. Smart guy, a physicist, worked for the government over there in Australia. Alien investigations and underground bases and nuclear weapons. The Cosmic Conspiracy by Stan and Louise Deo. Smarter guy than I, investigates everything. Talks about all kinds of topics, including alien craft. The Road to Illumination. The different gods, ancient beings, Hermes, Thor, Ammon, Osiris, Ra, Horus, Satan, Marduk, Baal, Bel, Bull, Satan, the Elohim, Yihweh, Elohim, Jesus the Christ, Egyptian Mystery School, Babylonian Mystery School, Hebrew Kabbalah School. Again, I'm connecting all the dots, even in this book, with these mystery schools, Theophist Society, Alien Craft, New Age, New World Order, everything. Jesuit, mystics, mystical, Masonic, and Rosicrucian orders of antiquity, anti-Jesuit, Illuminati mechanist, modern Masonic orders, Great White Brotherhood, Illuminati. So in my 3 years of doing book reviews and 11 years of reading books, this is number 49. More proof. You can go on YouTube and listen to this guy, Jordan Maxwell, Matrix of Power, Secrets of World Control. 64 of my series. That old-time religion, the story of religious foundations. Now, a lot of us are aware that after Jesus' crucifixion and rising again 3 days later, a couple hundred years later, the teachings of Jesus were becoming very popular. And apparently the Roman Caesar and empire was losing its power. So they decided to embrace Christianity. So I think it was 320 AD, years after Jesus. And Constantine, they had a big convention, and all the leaders of the area came around and decided to embrace Christianity. And they came up with all the things they would agree to, and holidays, and creating the Catholic Church and the Pope. So Caesar changed his name and is now a pope to lead the Roman Empire, which they now call the Christian Empire. Not all Christians, but the Catholic Empire, which, by the way, was opposed to other Christian organizations that wouldn't fall in line and be controlled by the Pope, particularly over there in the north area, Turkey, Greece. They had the Orthodox Christians who didn't want the Pope to have to be their person to go through to talk to God. So even the Pope and the Vatican were trying to destroy those people, Christians, and even sometimes using the Muslims, the Islamics, to do the destruction. And of course they destroyed the Library of Alexandria, and the Pope and the Vatican, wherever they went all over the world, wanted to destroy all the information of all the shamans and ancient religions wherever they went, South America, Central America. They had the Crusades 8 times in 300 years, a gigantic bloodbath for 300 years, time after time, 8 times. Anyways, Jordan Maxwell talks a lot about symbolism. Some of the symbols on the church roofs. Just trying to say, I made videos on these books. The symbolism of the Statue of Liberty and the torch, the light bearer. Lucifer's called the light bearer, the bringer of light. The symbols on the dollar bill, including the little owl perched on the one there. Series number 64. And then again, we do know that the Zionists are organized and are led by the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, the banksters. Not to be confused with a lot of good Jewish people who are fighting this whole issue also. They don't support the one age, New World Order, one world religion. But Bloody Zion, I went over this book, and this would be number 69. And it just has tons of material. It's just a little bit too much to read, but you have to watch my videos. It says here on page 299, just to give you a sample of how intentional all this is. In the 1930s, we put 1,100 men into the priesthood in order to destroy the church from within, the Catholic Church. The idea was for these men to be ordained and then climb the ladder of influence and authority as monsignors and bishops. The communist infiltrators. Remember, the communists were the Bolshevik Zionist Jewish folks who invaded Russia. And then they went ahead and assisted in the communist revolution of China. And I believe they are in complete agreement and cahoots with the banksters, the Illuminati. So the high-up capitalists are actually financing the communists. I.e., the elites get to live like aristocrats wealthy and in opulence, like the Hunger Games movie, and all the poor people become non-Jewish, non-illumined people. Cattle, goyim, profane, animals not to be trusted, as H.G. Wells said. We all get to be slaves. Another book I went over, number 68, The Work of All Ages. I got videos you can watch on my series, Freemasonry and Satanism. This book is a brief history of the Jewish people, from the days of Abraham to the present. From ancient times, they have had a vision of a Jewish world supremacy. You need more proof? How about an American Jew who moved to Israel? Finds out it's not what he thought it would be, comes back and writes a book, Jack Bernstein as told by Len Martin. Number 66. More proof you need? United Nations. After World War I, they created the League of Nations. These Zionist, Illuminati, world people who want to control the world. World elitist. And they couldn't get control of the League of Nations. Just like before President Woodrow Wilson, the president before him wouldn't do what the bankster Zionist Jewish people in New York wanted. So they told him they would put somebody in the office who would do what they wanted. And they had the money and the power to do that. That would be Woodrow Wilson. The League of Nations they couldn't get control of. So after World War II or during World War II, they formed the United Nations. And they do control that. And it's the cult of the all-seeing eye. All this Illuminati, Zionism, Mystery School of Babylon, Osiris, Isis, Ra, Lucifer, Satanism that we talk about. Symbols on the dollar bill. Number 16. Gone over a lot of books in 3 years. So let's move on to my short recap. Illuminati, the cult that hijacked the world. I keep talking about this book. Written by Henry McCow, PhD. Canadian Jewish man. Wrote the book. Illuminati. The Rothschilds. All the details are in here. Highest Illuminati defector. Rothschilds rule with Druid witches. I've been connecting witches with the Illuminati. This is a Jewish author in Canada. This is his book. Number 2, one of the ones that, the early books on my investigation and experiment and making this movie series, video series, Freemasonry and Satanism. And this book, number 2, was right after the Masonic Bible. And it highly motivated me to do my videos. And here's another example. The Jews' worst enemy, Illuminati Jews. Did you hear what I just said? The Jews' worst enemy, the Jews, would be Illuminati Jews. So the Jews who believe in God, their enemy is the Jews who separated from God and now worship Lucifer or these other pagan gods. Who else warned us about that time and time again? With so much information. The leader of the Jewish Congress in America, Rabbi Marvin Antleman. I made videos on these books. All the details. Number 45. He tells all. I've been going over it in my videos. Another one that I went over from Nesta Webster. The Bolsh and the Bolsheviks. The Bolshevik Jews and the Germans. I made a book review on this. Capitalistic concentration. This would be number 42. After the war, World War I, this concentration continued. Under a Republican administration, The War Finance Corporation was rehabilitated, and again Mr. Mayer was made its chairman. $1 billion was appropriated for the credits through the organization. The EDGE Act became a law authorizing the incorporation of special banks for financing foreign trade, and under its provisions, national banks are authorized to buy and hold stock in these corporations. So they put the Bolshevik Zionist Jews in charge of Germany after the war. President Wilson appointed Mr. Warburg as a member of the Federal Reserve Board, and his appointment was confirmed by the Senate following a legislative investigation as to the fitness for so responsible a position. 42. So there's a lot going on back there after World War I, including the information about the Balfour Agreement, where Germany was winning the war, World War I, and the Jewish people, the Zionist Jewish people, the Illuminati, came up with the brilliant idea that if they could promise Britain that the war could be turned around, they could win, because they controlled President Woodrow Wilson, and they had all the money in the world. And would Britain then agree to give them the land of the Palestinian people in Jerusalem? The Balfour Agreement. Look it up. Don't believe me. And then we got another book here, 43. Great Britain, the Jews in Palestine. Telling these stories I've been telling. How America was dragged into World War by the Zionist lobby. I don't make up these things I say in my videos. I've got the books. Made videos. Then there is, of course, this book I went over recently, number 90. I discover these books and I read them and go over them, and I'm learning that there were the good Jewish people and then the evil ones who want to take over the world, including the ones who apparently enter all these mystery school of Babylon, secret society, Masonic lodges, who also have these deities like Satan and Lucifer, Isis, Osiris, Horus, Ra, some kind of other kinds of beings, and they're into some kind of interdimensional, non-physical world, non-physical reality communication with these beings. And they have plans for a new utopia on planet Earth. And they feel there's way too many of us people they don't need. And that our DNA is defective, diluted, not as pure as it used to be. So they need to destroy all the people and bring about a new race of people. We know Hitler and other organizations have been into that for quite a while. Genetic engineering, cloning. The keystone of a world order, the Holocaust dogma of Judaism. Number 90 on my series. But basically they fabricated the Holocaust story, in that book it says, to make everybody in the world feel guilty. Going to make it a foundation for a new religion of world supremacy. We're going to protect you so this doesn't happen again. And everybody's guilty for killing all those Jewish people. Which doesn't seem to be the true story. A lot of scientists have done studies, and you couldn't have burned all those people in those buildings with gas. There would have been residue on the walls and other things, evidence. There would have been receipts and great amounts of money spent and transportation of all kinds of gas. Apparently some people have done some serious studies, and this is not the case. Then of course Tex Mars, holy serpent of the Jews, and he tells the story that he was giving a speech, and of course some Jewish person in the audience objected, said I was offended, and he said, well, why don't we all get along? Tex Mars said this. Why do you guys want to rule the world? Weren't we all from Adam and Eve? And the Jewish man said, no, we're not from that seed. We're from the seed of the serpent, according to Tex Mars. Book Review 91. Crazy material, I know. Some other books I acquired over the years. I started out my whole research program into psychic research. And from 1840 to 1940, they had these societies called the European or Society of Psychic Research, and then they had the American Institute for Scientific Psychic Research. (1916, 1917). I have all these books. Some of this research was quite fascinating. They would take pictures with the old style cameras and get other creatures in the picture that the guy would be thinking about. And even writings on a mirror, on the film. And notice the star and the moon, more occult symbolism on that document. Seances, ghost apparitions. Series number 34. I'll probably make some more videos. And also recently on number 99, I did Annie Besant, part of the Theosophist Society. The occultists, this new age religion apparently that's coming. Karma. I just recently did that. Fascinating material. Constant Kumbi. Karma was 99. The Hidden Dangers of the Rainbow. This is a lawyer, researcher, investigator, Constance Kumbi, and tells about all these organizations vying to destroy our world, calling it the New Age movement, the Fourth Reich. Things like the Christ is here, whole pages of newspapers were published with this stuff. It's a whole page in a newspaper. The Christ is coming. They use the rainbow as the symbol for the New Age. Also for all the gay agenda stuff. All coming out of the United Nations. That was number 40. More books over the years I went over. Number 22. Climate Gate. Project Bluebeam. The Marijuana Conspiracy. So apparently, they have this technology and this plan. That's why they're putting up all these antenna arrays and all these highly technical pieces of equipment. But apparently whenever they do whatever they're going to do, it could be some gigantic cosmic event to fake some kind of coming of some kind of God. Like it says here in a whole newspaper article they took out in Constant Kumbi's book. So number 22, Climate Gate. They are controlling the climate. They're using it as fear, artificial thought, and communication. I think some people have been murdered who were investigating these kinds of issues. 22. More stuff by Nesta Webster. Secret Societies and Subversive Movements. Number 70. She was quite the investigator. French Revolution, World Revolution. Another book I went over. Flyings, Serpents, and Dragons. R.A. Boulay. The Story of Mankind's Reptilian Past. Look at the Egyptian symbolism. So what we have now, so far we have the reptilian alien types who are supposedly here, and the Syrian alien types that are supposedly here. And all of this involves Israel. Here's a map of the area. Israel. Jerusalem, where my finger is. In this book, Flying Serpents and Dragons. The symbolism is everywhere. Alright, time to continue this video. It is Saturday, September 10th, 2016, which means, I just realized, tomorrow is 9/11, September 11th. With that in mind, I'm going to continue my snapshot of the books I've read and have made videos on And the couple new ones I introduced into some of the vacant slots where I combined other videos into one series. I'll be making videos on those books. I have read them. We will look at some of them in this review, part 1 and part 2. But I made a couple of videos on this book, a huge encyclopedia. So a lot of people don't know about the occult, magic, witchcraft, the esoteric. The Element Encyclopedia of the Psychic World, Teresa Chung. I did publish a couple videos on this, and if they're not up, I will be republishing them. That was number 86, by the way. And another one that I have read, Russell Targ and Harold Putoff, number 63. Another book into the scientists' look at psychic ability. Put a little... One of the psychics that was apparently skilled at traveling outside of his body, Uri Geller. And another topic was Carlin photography, where they could take pictures of your aura. So anyways, believing that Uri could bend rings without touching them and cause objects to move using only his mental powers. Just going over some of the books in my series that I have read in the last 11 years and made videos on in the last 3 years. Another one I have here, 71. I'll be making a video on this one. It's one of the substitutes. Forbidden Science. So if you wonder where I get my information, I read books. Connecting with Mother Earth. On the other page, Weather Wars. So what are we dealing with? This is number, like I said, 71. In the historic 2005 tropical storm season, there were so many storms, hurricanes, etc. in 2005, they ran out of the allotted names and had to use Greek letters. Appears to have finally jarred the mass consciousness into realizing that something fundamentally off with the weather. We can certainly say there's a lot of that going on with the threats of global warming, global cooling. They couldn't get either one of those arguments to work, so they came up with climate change, which nobody can argue with, because the climate has always changed and will continue to always change. Forbidden Science. Even has topics on here that I've been going over. The pyramids in Egypt. Another interesting book. Number 52. The Chronicle of Angkor. Carl Brugger. Look at some of the letters, the alphabet they used. He discovered an ancient tribe down there on the Amazon River, South America, where apparently during World War II, 2,000 Germans went there, submarines, boats, and then took smaller boats up the Amazon, hooked up with this Amazon tribe who had ancient monuments, facilities like pyramids and structures. The Return of the Gods. You might want to go watch my number 7252 video when I repost it. Another subject that is interesting that a lot of people are not aware of is PSI spies, Jim Mars. People leaving their body, there's Jim Mars, and spying for the government, taking control of other people. So people don't believe this stuff is real. These officers, members of the Office of Strategic Intelligence, OSI, met with Russell Targ. I think that would have just been the Mind Reach people. On April 1972, after viewing films of Soviet experiments in moving inanimate objects through telekinesis. So, you read all these books for 11 years, and you spend 3 years making 100 series, and some of those series I made 1 through 100. Like the Blue Lodge Handbook, I made 12 two-hour videos. And obviously with Helena Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, Morals and Dogma, the Bible for the Freemasons, and many other books, it could be another 12 2-hours. Or the Bible. I've already done 4 2-hours videos, St. Mark, St. Matthew, and 2 on St. Luke. And I still have to do more on St. Luke. And I'm going to continue through the Bible and doing videos on each one of those saints. And books in the Bible, that's what they call them, made up of many books. Like I need to do a video on Revelation, the last book of the Bible, Christian Bible. Another interesting book, number 15, Murder by Injection. This was an eye-opener. Eustace Mullins was a well-known, popular journalist in Washington, D.C. He was an insider. He knew, and he wrote books. The Story of the Medical Conspiracy Against America. This book tells all. Number 15 in my series. And reading it, again, as I said, was an eye-opener. Back in the 1910, 1920s, the Rockefeller, member of the Illuminati family, conspired to put fluoride in all the water supplies all across the United States. Apparently they probably were doing that over there in Europe. It does calcify the pineal gland, which suppresses our sixth sense, psychic abilities, things like that. So it takes away our awareness, notwithstanding the fact that they're trying to destroy Christianity and the Muslims' religion, Arabs' religion, Islam, with the Quran. So there is a concentrated effort to destroy religions and to destroy holistic healing is in this book. They wanted to destroy that and bring us medicine where they have to cut you open and perform surgery to solve problems. And now, since they destroyed the old holistic healing of herbs and other tinctures of plants and chemicals to help cure people, since then they've patented all these things, and the big pharmaceutical companies have them all. Another grand theft of taking away we the people's ancient knowledge on how to cure ourselves and keep ourselves healthy. And read this. There's so much more that Eustace Mullins talks about how they infiltrated the medical field, took it over, fluoride in the water, and all kinds of other issues, vaccines. Murder by injection. If that isn't enough, number 17, book I went over in a series, Emerging Viruses, AIDS, and Ebola. Leonard Horowitz, medical dentist, PhD, medical doctor. Forward by John Martin, medical doctor. Leonard Horowitz was a medical dentist, plus I think worked for the government as a high-level medical advisor in office. But he tells all about how they had these laboratories, and the documentation is here. CIA in Africa. And preventing liability and evading accountability of the government. And all these laboratory experiments to create the AIDS virus, and then experimenting with injecting them in society in New York and LA, and apparently in Africa. Major NATO commanders. So this was a worldwide effort to use these viruses, biological weapons, against we the people. And we all know, apparently, according to the books and the Georgia USA Guidestones, that say they want to reduce the population by a significant amount. So you got murder by injection by Eustace Mullins. You got emerging viruses, AIDS and Ebola, developed by our governments and secret societies, I'm sure. And then you got clouds of secrecy. Number 18, the Army's germ warfare test over populated areas. I kid you not. Again, another one of those eye-openers, you know. The government was actually taking fans and blowing biological pathogens, viruses, flus, whatever, into subways to see how it would affect people and how fast it would spread. Even ships off the coast of California or Washington State, gigantic fans blowing these biologicals into the air towards the city. Number 18. And I have more here. Remote viewing, Tim Rifat. Worked for the government. Number 6. So early on I was reading these books and I'm learning about the checklists of protocols to begin the ERV, leaving your body. So he tells all they're weaponizing esoteric knowledge, the occult magic. More, Tim Rifat. That one was, What Is It? This is a remote viewing and sensing for managers of companies. So he wrote a book for large corporations to train their employees, CEOs, etc., on how to remote view. I don't think we're safe anywhere. Another book by Tim Rifat that I had to order from Britain, England, because apparently they weren't selling this in the USA. Remote viewing, Tim Rifat. Again, weaponizing this ability to control the spiritual entity to do things for the government. The cinema method and directed attention. That's a big, thick book. So who would know this stuff if you didn't go do some research and find out about it? Do you believe it's real? David Morehouse, Psychic Warrior. Number 10. Inside the CIA's Stargate program, the true story of a soldier's espionage and awakening. I think one of the interesting things I learned about David Morehouse when he was over there in the Middle East, and he experienced some of those in the desert, I guess what you call genie, we would call ghost or spirits or demons. And he talks about that they have something like haunted sites that we would call it. But over there they were particular locations where these genie entities would appear. Just a little side note here. When I was making the videos for the last 3 years, I do a little bit of research. I talk about genies, cherubim, divas, and I've shown these in my videos on different books. But apparently, history is full of these beings. The Hindu gods. And it doesn't look too good. They got a head in his hand and a sickle or knife in the other. Skulls around his neck. And they got that Shiva, goddess of destruction, in front of CERN. So these beings, we talk about genies, we talk about divas, we talk about cherubim. Stuff, these things are etched in monuments. So what are we talking about? With this apparent New Age religion that seems to be taking hold everywhere. Wisdom of the plant diva. These beings communicating with people in all the ancient religions. Some don't look too good, more like aliens. So those were divas. Then on the cherubim, when I came across that topic, like the cherubim that are guarding the entrance to Eden, where Adam and Eve were cast out because they ate of the tree of life, and they had to be punished, and God did not want them to eat of the tree of life. They ate from the tree of knowledge. But you got these cherubim, these people who are guarding the gate to Eden. Interesting looking creatures. And you got pictures of God and these flying beings and animals throughout history. So when you read the Bible and you hear about all these things, or Revelation, and you see these pictures of these beings with eyes and wings, and even biblical cherubims, little babies with wings. Egyptian monuments with wings. The Ark of the Covenant. So like I said, it's been an interesting research and making videos for 3 years. It took me 3 years to do the 100 series. My target was to get it done before the 3 years were up. So one just has to wonder what these are. You talk about books like this one, Astrology, the Space Age Science. You can see I read all that, my tabs in there. And apparently, this is number 41 in my series. This author, Joseph Goodovich, investigated people born, let's say in the same hospital, the same hour, the same minute. And it could have been 2 girls or a girl and a guy. And when he looked at their lives, we're talking about astrology here, they almost led identical lives. They both might have married, if it was 2 girls, a guy named Peter. They might have become school teachers. They might have had 2 children. They might have got cancer at 50 years old. He goes over that. And the coincidences are just too weird. Even 2 people in the same city, born at the same second, would wind up going on in their lives and sometimes even meeting each other. What is astrology? What is this thing between the stars and the planets, part of this New Age religion that a lot of people are into? A friend of mine is seriously knowledgeable about this, and she was showing me some of the astrology websites, and it reminds me a lot of the New Age gurus who have the workshops, like Barbara Manichek, who wrote the 2 books I have on the Palladians, and she talks like she's being communicated with some spiritual beings, And she says, the Palladians are here, the Syrians are here, and the Pixies are here. All these other entities who are guiding her to tell people stuff at workshop. Look up the Palladians and Barbara Manichek, or some of these websites, and you'll find the information fascinating. Barbara Goldsmith, Clear Charts. Gene Wiley, Quantum Soul Note. And I say all that because of these books and more that I'm going to go over in this recap, which looks like it's going to be, this is part 1, series 101, me reviewing 100 books, so I'm probably going to get about 50 plus or minus done on this video. And then part 2, I'll go through the rest. So I think what I've done is all of these, those are the ones I've already gone over in this video. And my part 2 will be all of those. Whatever I don't finish on this video. But anyways, getting back to this astrology stuff and these people who make videos on YouTube, go watch it. It's fascinating. And apparently there is something to astrology, if all this stuff is not a lie. So what kind of matrix reality do we live in? And I've learned a lot reading all these books and making videos, looking at pictures, magazines, watching other videos, press releases in the newspaper. And interestingly enough, I did look at a few of these astrology speakers, gurus, and they have some interesting comments about the current election between Hillary and Donald Trump. They call Hillary Shillery, and apparently Donald Trump they call Donald Duck. Quantum Soul Note, Gene Wiley, W-I-L-E-Y, Tom Lescher, L-E-S-C-H-E-R, K-Pacha, Rick Levine. I recommend you go put these names in the computer and look at some of these speakers and listen. Benjamin Bernstein, Rosa Leah, L-I-L-A, Healing, Timothy, H-O-W-L-E-R-I-N, astrologer coach, Sonja Francis, and Abraham Hicks Estor, who's a channeler from beings from the other side. Then also, our books I read and made videos on. This is number 4. Early on my investigation, I spent the first 3 or 4 years just studying psychic research. I didn't intend to get into this conspiracy theory, New World Order, New Age. That came later on as I kept on reading books and learning things. And I saw how vast it was, this New World Order, New Age, apparently coming out of the United Nations and the Theosophist Society. Also the same religion, this cosmic conspiracy, is the religion of the Freemasons, as we went over in this video, the Sirius star system with Robert Temple. So this keep connecting the dots here. But this was a fascinating book, Mysterious Phenomenon of the Human Psyche, and I think some of this material was the inspiration or the drive that got the United States into the Black Ops programs, into psychic research. When they found out the Russians were in it, that would have been L.L. Vasiliev, V-A-S-I-L-I-E-V, the author of a Soviet physiologist, who now heads the Soviet Union's first parapsychology laboratory in Leningrad. So over there in Russia, they had this microwave transmitter, like we have the HARP systems, half a dozen or more of them strategically placed around the planet, which apparently they can heat up the sky, control the weather. This all started because over there in Russia they had a microwave transmitter, like a microwave dish, aimed at the U.S. Embassy, and they would pulse microwave beams at the embassy. And they were causing the American ambassador and his people to get bloody noses and cancer and huge health problems. Pulsing. It's called a woodpecker. You can look that up on the computer. So this is interesting stuff I learned in my investigation. So this, again, would have been series number 4. And another book that just was totally invaluable information that really opened my eyes up about seances and communicating with beings. And let's say some guy died in Germany in a war who was from England long ago, and they didn't have telephones or whatever. You got messages by horseback or carriage and mail pouches. So it took days, weeks to get a message from Germany to Britain. Had to come across on ship. But anyways, some people, when they died, would appear that night at their mother's bedside as a ghost, or their wife as a ghost, whatever, and say that I've died, and gave them some final message. So stuff like that I learned. You know, what are people to believe? So this is series number 50. I'll be making more videos on this stuff. Look how big thick it is. Just want to wrap up this video. A couple more books. But the day after Roswell. So what are we to believe? Did a UFO really crash? Did Colonel Philip Corso get assigned to the job to dissect the craft, the electronics, the equipment on board, and piece by piece dole that out to like IBM or Martin Marietta or these other high-tech companies to re-engineer the technologies found on the craft, as this book says? This would have been number 47 in my series. Would that be where we got the technologies for the flat screens, the iPads, the iPhones, and all these high-tech technologies? What are we to believe? That's why I read all these books. Another one I read that kind of blew me away. Again, what's true? If this stuff is behind me is true, oh my God, we people, so many people, are so unaware of anything. To the point, I hate to say this, that a lot of people fundamentally are stupid. As per some Mark Dice goes to California, walking around the beaches in the different cities, and he'll ask people, how many sides on a triangle? And people go, I don't know, 4? Or where's the capital of the United States? I don't know. Or things like that. How many world wars have we had? 3? Mark Dice and other people. They don't know the difference between a Republican or a Democrat, but they do learn, whichever side they're on, to hate the other side. So what are we to believe? Anyways, this book, Night Siege, was just a shocker. This is number 37 in my series. But apparently, in 1983, plus or minus, Dr. Alan Hynek, Philip Umbarno, and Bob Pratt, our investigation begins. The City in the Sky, the Mysterious Flyers. Bottom line is, people were pulled over on the interstates up there in northwestern New York City state, Connecticut, western Connecticut, Massachusetts, because these gigantic triangle boomerang, as big as football fields, would be seen in the sky, either zooming along slowly, fast, or hovering. Everybody pulled over on the interstate. So again, is this guy just lying, all these books behind me? Or is there something we all should know? Knowing full well, as this video I've said earlier, they want to depopulate the planet. Then you got one of my heroes, the Gold of the Gods. Eric Van Daniken, apparently still alive. I think he spoke at the Nexus magazine conference in Australia recently. So he goes to Ecuador, where they have gigantic caves in the Andes Mountains, and they're obviously cut out by some intelligent being, glass walls, high in the Andes, and step down all the way to the Pacific, under the Pacific, and coming up with an entrance on some island. But anyways, there's some priest up there who found some artifacts. Gold artifacts. Look at the design on that. Familiar? The snake, the pyramid, the eye, the gray aliens on the bottom. Fascinating. Go get this book, The Color Pictures Alone. If you can find it for $2 or $3, I think it's an invaluable thing to get and show your friends. Unbelievable. What are these gold things? We even have some other pictures here. But like the Hopi Indians in New Mexico, Arizona, apparently these people in Ecuador, the Andes, some beings came and built these facilities inside the mountain so these people could survive the Great Flood, the catastrophe that came to Earth. What are we seeing here? 3-foot tall gold plates. What is this language? I haven't read this other book yet. What series number did I say that was? That was 48. The Gold of the Gods. If I forgot to mention the number on any particular book, just leave a comment and I'll look and tell you. But I got to read this book, another one by Eric Van Doniken. Gods from Outer Space. This was the gold for the gods. So I collect the books. Another one, and I'll end this video because I think it's very important. But apparently they're trying to destroy the U.S. Constitution, if they haven't already. They certainly, the people ruling our world, controlling our world, are ignoring it. So everybody, and I read this, should go get one of these in various forms. The Citizens Rule Book. Now, they can't make laws to override the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. They can't. So we have the right of free speech. Hence, I'm making free speech and saying what I think. I don't want everybody to agree with me. I want you to challenge what I'm saying. I got the books. I read the books. Press releases. I've got cases and cases, 5-6 feet tall, of printed out pages of press releases and other research material. I've got 4 shoeboxes of pictures from the Rosicrucians, Freemasons, devils, demons, and everything. Peyote. I'll have to take those 4 shoeboxes and sit here and make a couple of hour video and just pull out the different categories that I've printed out. So we have the right of free speech. They cannot make any law that suppresses that first right, the right to free speech. The second one, of course, the right to bear arms. They cannot make any law to stop us from owning a handgun, a rifle, etc. They'll try to skirt around it and classify it as assault weapons, or saying, as I've shown in press releases, that applies to muskets. When they made the law, they had muskets. Well, yeah, the government had muskets too, so we had muskets. But today, the government has all kinds of strange things, including technologies like remote viewing. Manufacturing Zika virus mosquitoes in laboratories, genetically modified. They're making them and releasing them. And then they're driving through cities or in different areas, spraying chemicals through neighborhoods, saying they're trying to kill the Zika mosquitoes. Crazy. Vaccines with mercury in it. Children getting autism and other diseases. Sky spraying chemicals in the sky. Heart microwave transmitters. Remember the woodpecker? In Russia, they were aiming at the U.S. Embassy, causing people to have bloody noses and cancer. And so what are they doing with all those heart transmitters? How do we know they're not going to aim it at us? We have rights, the Bill of Rights. So what I'm trying to say with this little note here, if you ever wind up on a jury and somebody's accused of having a rifle that was banned in a particular city, that law is actually an illegal law. They cannot make a law to go against the U.S. Constitution or the Bill of Rights. So as a juror, when you have to say guilty or not guilty, if it's an illegal law, even if the guy admits he had the rifle, or they got pictures of the guy with the rifle, you can't convict him of an illegal law. You as a juror, and they don't want you to know this, the judges and the lawyers, can say, wait a minute, that law is illegal. So you can't convict a guy of an illegal law, not guilty. That's your right. The judge cannot stop you from voting your conscience. And the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights are the guidelines. You need to get one of these little books and find out things like that. They could have pictures of the guy with a whole room full of guns. They can't make a law that even says how many guns you can have. They can't say that you're guilty of hate speech because we have the right to freedom of speech. But they're making these laws saying you can't say that you don't agree with the United Nations promoting the homosexual, gay agenda and other transgenderism and other more liberal, decadent activities. You can say, I think it's wrong. I read the Bible and God says that man should not lie with man. And I'm not saying that I hate gay people or Jewish people or black people or short people, tall people, aliens. I'm saying we all have the right to our consciences, and we don't need the United Nations pushing this agenda. And I'm sure a lot of gay people probably don't like it either and can see the backlash that's trying to be created by the government with the New Age and the New World Order, trying to create the divide and conquer between the blacks and the whites and the gays and the straights. And the saying people hate Jewish people, when many Jewish people are on my side opposed to Zionism and killing all the Palestinians. So people need to get with it and go on the internet, wherever, get a copy of the Constitution, a copy of the Bill of Rights, and they need to read them. Not be stupid people like Mark Dice shows us when he walks around with his camera and film crew and asks people, what country is London in? Where is Europe? I don't know. That's how much people know these days. They don't want to know. They say, I don't care. But meanwhile, homeless people are disappearing. More people are becoming homeless. It looks like they got some crazy plans for some kind of martial law, planning for World War III. Obama having arguments with the president of the Philippines, canceled his meeting the other day. China and the USA are in a contest fighting words. Russia and the United States are in a contest fighting words. So somebody is really mixing the pot. I read these books. I'm trying to figure it out. And I believe I have figured out there's more to this reality than we all know. And that we can, by exercising prayer, actually communicate with this other world. I guess the question is, do you want to communicate with God and the world where Jesus came from and the Ten Commandments and treat other people like you want to be treated? that other world, that other invisible reality, that other non-physical reality? Or do you want to communicate with the Luciferic demonic reality, where Aleister Crowley, known as the evilest man alive for his very insane things he did to little children, they sacrifice people for their satanic rituals, and they have sex with children for their satanic rituals. So do you want to go with that world or this world? Or does everybody just want to believe in this dualism reality, the New Age, where they tell you there's no such thing as sin? Everything is okay. I'm saying from reading these books it's not okay. There are premeditated activities going on. There certainly seems to be some other reality that existed before the one we live in now, like ancient Atlantis, Hyperborea, other sunken continents in ancient history. And then the Great Flood came. And apparently, according to the Bible, people back then were very evil, even into cloning and genetic engineering, making all kinds of monsters and creatures, as we know in mythology, half horse, half man, etc., etc. So apparently, whoever God was, or whatever entity controls planet Earth, had to erase everything. But they did save a remnant of the people, like the Ecuadorians and Romania and Greece, all over the world, the Hopi Indians in the Midwest. Whatever these beings were, they built underground facilities to save the human race. And then if you go back further than that, the ancient Atlanteans were into the cloning and the eugenics, creating monsters, and apparently whoever the god was who controls Earth had to destroy all that. Just some of the things that I learned by reading these books. For example, when Eric Van Doniken, this book, went to Ecuador, one of the stones, a rock he found, looked like this, under a black light. That looks like this thing on the U.S. $1 bill. And it apparently has some star system, like Star System Sirius or something on the bottom, and some of that language writing on the bottom of that stone. So I just thought after 3 years and completing my series up to from 1 to 100 that I would do a recap, and apparently it's going to take 2 videos. I've already done all these here, and then I have to do these on the next video, so it'll be an hour or so. And those pictures behind me are pictures that I take of the sun. Let me show you one of my hobby I have. Just some people watch my videos and they wonder what those pictures are. But I heard about Nibiru, Planet X, the Destroyer, that it was coming. So I thought to myself, well, how will we know? What will it look like? So I did some studies, and I found out that if you use certain filters and you take pictures of the sun, you can see, like this picture up here, and this one right here behind my shoulder, that you can get, and I have thousands and thousands of these, you can get a baseline of what the sun looks like. For example, I have some big ones I blew up. Look at that little dot. This is a cloud. Right here, that's a cloud. This is actually the bright light you see in the sky, the sun. This is an orb, but behind the sun, like a flashlight. When you aim a flashlight at the wall, you don't see any light between the flashlight and the wall. You see the beam on the wall. So apparently this is what causes the rays to come from. This is the glowing thing you see in the sky, the bright white thing. You don't see this glowing amber. Another one I have here. So I got thousands and thousands of these. It's like a baseline. So if there is some incoming planet Nibiru thing. I know what the sun right here is supposed to look like. That's the bright white light. That's the orb you see behind the sun that probably aims at our ionosphere and creates a glowing effect. And these other things, of course, are clouds. Just doing my homework, trying to figure out what the heck is going on planet Earth. Why do they have those Georgia, USA Guidestones that say they want to have a population on Earth of 500 million when they tell us there's 6+ billion? Do 6 billion people have to die? Why are they, even the George Bush and many other people, say out of chaos and anarchy will come a new world order? Why are they promoting from the United Nations, which has the occultic meditation room, the New Age cosmic religion, which entails Isis, Osiris, Horus, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, and even Hitler went into the occult, and all these secret mystery school of Babylon organizations, Freemasons, Illuminati, Rosicrucians, Knights of Malta, Knights of Columbus, Bilderberger groups, Bohemian Grove, where they throw a baby in a fire. Alex Jones snuck in there and took a video. Go watch it. The Cremation of Care. Under a gigantic owl called Moloch. Why on the $1 bill on the top right is there a little tiny owl? Lots of whys. Thank you for watching my video. Rick Miracle reporting.